Good day, everyone. Today is Catch-Up Saturday. What are we catching up on is the list of news and changes planned for 9.1.5 that were too tiny, too small, they did not deserve their own video to be talked about. So, as we went on, enough days, we have been able to accrue enough of these news to group them up all together in a single video, so we can talk about all of them at once, and then we can forget about them forever. Or maybe not forever. Maybe some of these news are going to be interesting and relevant to some of you, perhaps many of you, starting with one of the recent ones, which is going to, I guess, touch all of the player base, as long as you are willing to spend money in it. And I am actually talking about both in-game gold or actual money, because of the announcement of the new in-game shop mount, the Sunwarmed Furrline, which is essentially a cat mount. You know, I'm sure you've seen over the internet, over the years, the sometimes fetishist attraction that some people have towards cats and how cute they are and whatnot. So making a cat mount, it's a pretty foolproof way to get people to buy this goddamn mount. But what has struck people about this mount is how it looks. Both the models and the animations, even the colors and the glow, it basically doesn't look like it's part of WoW. Many times people have pointed out that Blizzard tends to release mounts deep into an expansion, mounts from models or mounts from assets from the next expansion as a preview, just like the Silverin Dreamer dragon available in BFA, then being an actual dragon in the Shadowlands, which then begs the question, where are we gonna get cats in the next expansion? There are a few other mounts that have been kept as a one-off, like the rat mount, like the flying ship mount, haven't really made it into the game in any other way, so maybe this cat might end up being the same, but there is a possibility. There is a possibility that this is just a snippet of what is going to be also present in the next expansion. On to actual in-game news. When we were discussing Mythic Plus Legion Timewalking, there was the talk about some interesting trinkets making a comeback, because they're gonna have their highest item level, just like the Mythic Plus items right now, so 246, which is competitive with other endgame item levels. And of course, the first thought went to trinkets. Which possible trinkets could turn out to be OP if we scale them into Shadowlands level? Well, there was one thing that wasn't really a trinket that would have caught the attention of many specs, which was the Jewel Signet of Melandrus. This was the special ring, which also, on top of its normal secondary stats, also gave you auto attack damage increased by 10%. So, of course, many of the specs that actually do lots of damage with their default auto attack, this ring would have, of course, been incredibly OP for the spec. Well, it turns out that while all of the other trinkets of Legion for the moment haven't really been changed, this one has. This one has been changed in its newer Shadowlands version into a static number rather than a percentage. So, for example, the maximum item level, scaling it up to its default item level 50 that you can see in the Mythic Plus Legion Timewalking, is going to be adding 36 damage to your auto attacks, which of course seems like a very tiny number, but eventually, trust me, it's gonna add up, especially if you are a spec that has some decent value on crit or haste, or better, both of them. Then this is still going to be your best in slot ring, pretty much. It's just not going to have the incredible value it would have had if it still had the 10% increased damage of your auto attack, but it's still definitely worth picking up. Another bit of news, which I intentionally did not group up together with all of the other additions related to quality of life for your leveling, is the one for your flight paths. Because initially you hear the news and you think it's very good, because Blizzard is adding new scouting map toys in 9.1.5, which you can use, being of course toys, being of course bound to your account. You can have your alts use them and pretty much instantly uncover all of the flight paths for all of the different zones. My only gripe with this addition, and the reason why it ends up being relegated to this catch-up video, is the fact that each and every one of these scouting maps is going to cost 10,000 gold, and there's going to be 8 of them. So yeah, Sure, it is an extra help to your alts to level up faster, to always get all of the flight paths ready for you to fly to in every zone you can possibly think of, but it's gonna cost you 80,000 gold if you want all of them. But hey, maybe you plan to stay in one zone or in one continent for particularly long, so maybe if you're thinking of just buying 1 or 2 of these scouting maps, it might still be worth. That's okay, I guess. Still, I don't think this was a nice spot to try to put some more inflation deflating gold sinks, catch-up mechanism for alts. Another bit of news, which was then overtaken by another bit of news, which is now already old news, was the 24 hours of delirium that happened to the hunter community. What happened precisely was this announcement by Blizzard that Binding Shot, the root effect of Binding Shot, can now break upon receiving enough damage. The damage threshold to break is going to be higher than other roots, but still, it was no longer going to be a perma root for the duration of the ability. It would have essentially had roughly 2.5 times the amount of damage it could sustain before it would break compared to something like Entangling Roots or Mass Roots or Root Totem from the Shaman. This, as I said, lasted just about 24 hours because Blizzard, I'm guessing, remedied to their mistake, pointing out with another blue post that the Hunter Binding Shot change from this week's PTR has been reverted. The explanation is kind of funny, actually. They pointed out that due to an oversight when changing Binding Shot from a stand to a root, Binding Shot was not updated to also obey normal root rules. The funny thing is that this change from a stand to a root was 4 years ago. So yeah, this change actually was something that should have happened 4 years ago, and it would likely have been right. Just like all the other roots in the game, they have a break threshold, they have a damage break threshold, which is likely what Binding Shot should have gotten as well, but because they literally forgot about it and let Binding Shot work as it is for 4 years, once they have tried to change it now, it's been too late. People have gotten used to it, how nice it is to have the perma root effect compared to other types of roots, so hunters got mad and Blizzard realized they can't really pull this off right now. Pretty lucky break for hunters. It's not, to be fair, that hunters needed any nerfs right now, so I guess this is also fair to them. Another bit of change is around PvP this time. That's right, let's talk about PvP a little bit. Because Blizzard is changing the ratings in which you can reach PvP sets breakpoints in 9.1.5. So this is the very simple and clear-cut comparison. Of course, 2400 is still the elite title, 2100 is still the duelist title, and 1800 is still rival. There are, however, a couple of differences. First of all, Combatant and Challenger are getting scaled up in their rating from 1k to 1.4 and from 1.4 to 1.6, but the other main change is that they are staggering the breakpoint rating for your rewards. They have jumbled them around. For example, previously it took you 1800 rating to get the helm and 1600 rating to get the boots. Now in the updated version it's gonna take you 1950 to get the helm and the boots. This is changing this so that previously it took you 1800 rating to get the entirety of the elite transmog for PvP, whereas now in 9.1.5 it's going to take you 1950 rating to get the entirety of the PvP transmog set. Of course, this is, as usual, going to divide people who see this. Some people think it's good because it's giving more rewards to people who push higher in the rating, so people who get to that level can feel more rewarded for the effort they put in. And then, of course, there is the other side who doesn't want to do that because they know it's going to be harder for them now to reach what they could already reach right now, and now they see it as something that's being taken away from them. Sort of like the example we just made with Binding Shot. Even though it was supposed to be changed 4 years ago, now hunters got it to work that way for 4 years, so they feel like something would be taken away from them if they change it, just like this PvP rating change. Still, I think this type of change is mostly up to preference. You know, when you see someone saying, for example, that, damn, this change is going to make getting the full set impossible for 90% of the players. Well, wouldn't this be a good thing? Aren't you just implying that right now 90% of the players can get this entire elite transmog set? Where is the elite part of this set if 90% of the players can get it? To mention, people are kind of forgetful about the fact that before Shadowlands, elite sets from PvP were 2000 rating, not 1800. So if anything, Blizzard, yes, raised it up to 1950, which is still not even as high as what it used to be before. Now, the last of the changes that is worth mentioning here for everyone to remember before they start fucking up once the patch comes out is something that at first seems confusing and to not make too much sense, but then you kind of realize is probably for the better, which is the fact that swapping covenants is going to cancel all of the missions you have active with that specific covenant. So, of course, this is to, limit the amount of min-maxery that you can do by constantly juggling 4 different mission tables for 4 different covenants at any given time. Because we all know that's what everyone would have done. That's what everyone would have felt like they were compelled to do. To constantly have gold missions, augment rune missions, meat, fish, enchanting, tailoring, and herbalism missions running on 4 different covenants to turn this into another gold mining factory like it was in Warlords and even to a degree in Legion. So I think this is a good change to just stop people to try to do that, because it's not really entertaining gameplay, it's not that fun. I do, however, think that it could have been handled with slightly more class. For example, I thought it would have been better to simply lock the ability to queue up new missions with a covenant if a different covenant had any missions active. I think this is a better solution because what you have right now is, for example, you log in early afternoon and you queue up all of your missions. Then you go out, you go do something else, you come back in the evening to raid, and it's time to go and spec to a different covenant. Or perhaps you queue up all the missions before doing Mythic Plus as a certain covenant, and then in the evening it's time to raid, so you have to change covenant. Because you have to change covenant, part of those missions, the longer missions, which is likely also going to be the more rewarding missions, are still running, are still underway, which means you're gonna lose them. You're gonna lose them because you have to respec from Ventir to Necrolord, and all those missions will be lost. So I think that if it was set up in a way that you simply are unable to queue up any more missions with other covenants if you already have some underway, it would have allowed you to freely respec to actually do the content you want to do. Necrolord for PvP, Night Fae for Mythic Plus, and Kyrian for raiding without having to worry about cancelling some mission left and right every time. I think that would have been the better solution to this issue, but overall I agree with the general idea. Do not have everyone run after all of these missions from 4 different covenants at the same time. I think it's for the better. Now that we have grouped them all up, we are finally done with all of these tiny minor additions grouped up all together for this video. There are a few of them that can impact quite a large base of the population, like this covenant mission change, the PvP change, and even the in-game store mount might impact quite a few people. And then there are a few minor ones like melee players and their shiny ring from Legion Mythic Plus, or the Hunter change of Binding Shot. Either way, I thought they were interesting enough to group up together. We are now very close to the start of 9.1.5, and right before 9.1.5 releases, we are now currently undergoing the Mythic Dungeon International Global Finals, the MDI Finals for this season, basically. We are eventually going to cover it. I don't know if it's tomorrow or in a couple of days, just to see how it's currently undergoing the event, and then we will maybe talk about it. So for now, however, we can stop here. As usual, thank you for watching the video. If you want to support the channel, you can leave a like on the video, you can comment down below, as well as you are invited to subscribe to this channel, but only if you have never put pineapple on your pizza. Otherwise, not only you cannot subscribe, but you should also leave this channel forever. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, no, but for real, I will actually send authorities after you if you have committed that crime. No joke.